today, but we have an incredibly special treat for all of you today, in that we have someone who I have found to be one of the most inspirational leaders that I had a chance to meet, truly one of the finest entrepreneurs in the world, and also one of the greatest teachers of leadership and entrepreneurship all throughout the world. We have Jeff Hoffman here today. Jeff went to college at Yale when he was in his 20s. He was struggling to, find his way and to be successful. He was at the airport one day and frustrated about having to wait in line to print his boarding pass. So he went ahead and invented those kiosks that you now use to print your boarding passes when you go to the airport to catch a flight. He's been part of the founding team at Priceline.com, at ubid.com. He is a best-selling author of a book called Scale. He is a worldwide speaker. He's been a CEO of several companies. He is the producer of a Grammy-winning jazz album. He has been the executive producer of an Emmy-winning television show, has produced Hollywood films, has produced musical events, including concerts from artists like Elton John, Britney Spears, NSYNC, Boys to Men, and others. This guy is incredible. All right, he is on many boards of companies all across the world. He is the chairman of the Global Entrepreneurship Network, which works with entrepreneurs in 180 countries. And he's a great follow on LinkedIn, by the way. If you have not already connected with Jeff Hoffman on LinkedIn, I recommend you connect, maybe send a quick note. You're with Cutco Vector Western Region, so he knows it's you. And it's awesome to see the work that he does to not only be somebody who has produced and earned and become extraordinarily wealthy and successful, but who gives back in so many ways to so many people. And that's one of the things that inspires me most about him. I asked Jeff to talk a little bit about leadership, about entrepreneurship, and about how young entrepreneurs can impact the world. Jeff, this is about 100 of the Western region management team who are on here today, who are all young entrepreneurs who are looking to become great in their lives. And so you've got a great audience who is fired up to be able to hear from you today. Take it away, share what you'd like. Thanks so much for making time for our team.
Absolutely. And, you guys are already family because, as you mentioned, Ruland to Berghoff to Vroman, all these are, and Hal, obviously, Elrod, these are all family to me, people I do a lot of stuff with. So I would, of course, be there, Dan, for you guys and for this group. What I'm really hoping is that we can make this more interactive, because I'd rather than instead of just being a talking head, I'd rather be talking about stuff you guys want to talk about. So Dan, I'm assuming maybe you people can type questions in the chat and you can pick some questions out, or you can drive it a little bit. So I'm happy to talk up front, but again, it's a lot better use of the time if we're interactive and talk about what you guys want to talk about. A lot harder to do that when we're on a stage in a physical place where you're just talking. So it's nice to take advantage of the interactivity of doing Zoom calls. So
yeah, I can. Cool. I can tee off with one, Jeff, which sure. We'd love to hear about some of your entrepreneurial experiences. And one of our district managers, Joseph Diaz, asked the question of, do you have a framework or business model that you are repeating from start to finish for each of your businesses? And so just to kind of hear a little bit about some of your experiences in starting and building organizations would be great for people. Maybe you can tee off with that one. Sure.
Because I think that'd be good, because then it'll kind of include some of the most important lessons for launching any business. Because some of the stuff that I've done seems very disparate from each other, different things. Some are similar. You mentioned my very first company, which was the kiosk company. But I was 20-something years old, quit my engineering job, unemployed, broke, and missing a flight in an airport, when I got that idea that you should be able to just use a kiosk to check yourself in at an airport. But again, I had one job that I had not done well at. I was an engineer in a big corporate environment. And, you know, Dan, I think you've heard me say this before, but I don't, for some reason, corporate America just fails to value sarcasm the way I do. So I was not very well liked in the corporate world. And I quit after just a couple of years. And again, I was 20-something years old and unemployed, and missed that flight, standing in the airport, and said, you know, I'm going to fix this problem. And so I think that is actually the first lesson, and I'll share kind of these common elements, was the fact that I never said, I want to start a business, right? What I get now is people that start at the wrong end. They start with, I get people to call me now, Dan, and they say, hey, Jeff, I'm an entrepreneur now. And I say, what does that mean? And people literally tell me, I got an office now, right? I got business cards. I have my own website. They have everything but an actual idea of why they're doing this and what they're doing. And this happens all the time. And so one of the most valuable lessons is that is to find something to do in your life, a problem to solve, that you're so focused on this problem that the business itself that you have to build around it is almost irritating. Let me give you an example. So I'm designing these kiosks, right? Because I got this idea, people can use a kiosk and check in at the airport. And a friend of mine, I'm not a finance guy, and I'm going to talk about, you know, sticking to the things you're good at, not the things you're bad at in a minute, but I don't know numbers. I'm not a finance guy. I got a friend of mine that works in finance at a big company. I can't afford as a startup entrepreneur to hire someone. Or two, he said pizza and beer. And I said, I can deal with that. So every Wednesday he would come by my office and just handle the books for me. And one day he comes in and he goes, hey, Jeff, I got some good news and bad news. And I said, what's the good news? And he said, the good news is I told a friend of mine who's an investor about these kiosks you're building, and he wants to give you some money. I said, cool, well, it's going to cost money to build them. What's the bad news? And he said, bad news is you don't even have a checking account for this. And I said, look, man, I just want to build kiosks. I don't know about banks, not my thing. I said, just go get me a checking account and take his check. And he said, I'd be happy to do that, but there's another problem. And I said, what? And he said, you don't even have a company. You haven't created a business. And I said, look, seriously, all I want to do is build these kiosks. I don't really care about that. Now, clearly I had to care about all that. But when I'm looking back, I realized I was so focused on what problem are you solving and for who, that everything else was almost a minor detail. All your focus should be on that this is the problem I solve, this is the person or the need that I fill, and this is the person that I fill it for. And if you feel like that isn't occupying your day all day long, you're doing the wrong thing. You're not in the right business. So that became a very valuable lesson to me. Obviously, we were able to get those kiosks in the airports. Now you use them in airports all over the world today. And the company worked. As I went forward, there was another huge lesson in the story I just told you. When you're an entrepreneur and you guys have to do everything yourselves, when you start a business and it's just you, by definition, you do everything yourself because there's no one else to do it. Everything means operations, marketing, finance. You're doing the whole thing. And one day, since I'm not a numbers person, somebody came to me and they said, hey, Jeff, they asked me about a balance sheet. And I said, honestly, I didn't take finance classes. I'm an engineering guy. I don't really know. And he said, but you're a business owner. You're your own CEO, right? How do you have to know everything that goes on to run a business. And so I'd heard that before. So he said, you better learn how to read a balance sheet and every other possible piece of a business in order to grow it. So I went to the bookstore and I got a book called Finance and Accounting for Non-Financial People. It wasn't even the For Dummies series, it was one step up. And I was all excited. I'm going to go learn finance and learn how to write cash flows and balance sheets because I'm the CEO and I need to know everything. And I went home and I took that book and I sit it down and I opened it to the first page. And I was all excited until I read the first page, which might as well have been written in a foreign language. And I said, you know, this is actually one of the dumbest things I've ever done. What am I going to do next? I'm going to go back to the store and I'm going to buy a book on dentistry and I'm going to start pulling my own teeth. No, I'm going to go to a dentist. So why am I pretending to be a finance person when there's people that went to finance, that's their degree, that's their expertise, right? So the second lesson I realized is every one of us is, no matter how successful you are, your success could be 10x if you realize this. Each of us is only actually good at one thing, right? I've never hired an engineer who does my taxes and writes my marketing slogans. It just doesn't work that way. We're all gifted with one thing we're really good at. What you have to realize, if you want to really grow in the world in anything you do, if you want to scale it, the key to success is to stick to the one thing you do well and surround yourself with people smarter than you and everything else. I didn't get to two of the businesses I was involved in, Priceline.com, which is also Booking.com, same company, and ubid.com. Those two became multi-billion-dollar companies and global companies. They didn't do that when we were trying to do everything ourselves. They did that. You cannot scale until you can let go. And people will give you the opposite advice. You better be on top of everything. No, you better get the hell out of the way of everything. And you better get people smarter than you and empower them and trust them and let them go do their part. We grew when I realized that just because I'm the boss does not make me smarter than anybody. In fact, there are people smarter than me in 11 out of the 12 things we had to do. Turns out, by the way, I thought I was a good engineer. That's my degree. And I was sitting in my office one day and my own engineers, everyone's staring at me. I was like, dudes, what's up? And they're like, yeah, we're going to need you to back away from the keyboard. And I said, what's going on here? And they all look at Robert, our smartest tech guy. And they said, Robert, you tell him. And I said, Robert, what's up? And they said, Jeff, you're like the worst developer, coder. We were writing code. You're like your worst coder in the company. And I said, well, but it's my company. I'm the CEO, the owner. And they're like, and somehow you're still the worst one here, even though you own the company. And I was like, look, we all have the exact same degree. And they're like, and somehow we're still way better at this than you. And what I realized was when I started getting people smarter than me, there were people way smarter than me in the stuff I thought I was good at. It turns out what I was good at was marketing. And as I transitioned my career and my education into marketing, I'll run the marketing meetings at my own company, but I don't run the other meetings anymore. As I get people around me that are smarter, I just say, let me know if you need anything, otherwise go. And so our companies grew when I started surrounding myself with people smarter than myself. And the leadership, the most important thing, by the way, Dan, I'm doing like 7 of the questions all in this one reply. One of the important leadership things that you learn, you start by thinking a leader's job is to be out front and make all the decisions and, carry the flag, right? You're the strong one everybody looks up to. It turns out that leadership is in fact the inverted pyramid, right? You lead by serving from the bottom up. And what you are trying to build is the team. I'm going to say company, even though in your guys' cases, it's also teams. You are trying to build the company where the best people in the entire country all want to work for you and never want to leave. So how do you do that? You don't do that by being so busy all the time running the business that you don't have time to build it. You do that by spending a portion of your time figuring out how to take care of everybody else. How do I build? What do they want? I literally ask people, what would make this? In fact, I'll tell you an exercise I did one day, guys, and I just thinking of this. I had everybody that works for me, I got them all together and I said, everybody take out a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. And I said, on the left side, I want you to write down everything you've ever hated about any job you've ever had or person you worked for. What did they do that made you feel unappreciated, not valued? What made you quit or just not like working for that person or that company? Write down all the negatives on the left. And then I said, now go to the right side. I want you to write down what are the things you've most loved, the behaviors of anybody you've ever worked for that you loved working for, or any company. What things did they do that made you love your job? You couldn't wait to come in the next day and made you feel valued and appreciated. And you know what I did? I gave everybody a thumbtack and they said, what do we do? And I said, stick that on the wall, that sheet of paper, that is the employee policy manual. If I catch you doing anything on the left, you're fired. because you just told me you hated it when someone else did that to you. So don't ever do that to our people. And I said, and I need you at least once a month to pick something off the right side of that chart that makes you feel important and valued, and go do that for somebody on the team. So those little notes stuck up on our walls forever. Just asked people, what would make you never want to leave this job? Let me see. Your job then is to try to create that. What are the things they needed? I'm going to tell you one of mine that came up physically was I had a lot of single moms, and daycare stressed them out. And when I asked them the question, just dream, just write down for me, what are the things that would make you never want to leave your job? What stresses you out? What are the negatives? When we did this left side, right side, one of the things I found was daycare was stressful because they're worried about their kid during the day and someone else has their child, et cetera, et cetera. That was a big one on the list. So my job is to figure out how to build a work environment that the best people, remember, the best people in the country all want to work for you and they never want to leave. I had people that worked for me for 4 companies in a row. I kept building them. We'd sell the company and they'd all come back. And I found out why. It's because I asked them what I could do for them, not what they could do for me. That's the difference. In leadership, a lot of us think that you're the boss, so you need to tell people what they can do for you. How about ask them what you can do for them? And that's when the best people show up. So we wound up putting in our own daycare. We created our own daycare. And we let my employees hire the people in the daycare. We had an app so they could see it. It was physically in our building, and productivity went way up because I spent my time figuring out how to fund and build a little daycare so that my employees would love their job even more, would be less stressed, and would produce more. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So that was kind of a second piece, was surrounding yourself with people smarter than you and then serving them instead of expecting them to work for you. When people would say, who do you work for? They would say, Jeff. And I would say, no, I'm pretty sure it's the other way around. I work for you guys because my numbers all work because I have all the best people. All the best people work here. And they work here because I spend all that time doing them. So that, I think, is, Dan, those are just a few of the pieces. But I think that's why later when we launched, I launched the music company, and that's where we did tours and concerts with NSYNC and with Britney and all those people. The company did really well. That's where we wound up winning a Grammy. But it was the same principle. People said, Jeff, the music industry is so completely different. You're a tech guy. When we started our movie company and started making movies, one of the first movie we ever made is doing really well right now in the world because it's on Hulu and Vudu and Netflix, because it's a movie about a virus. But when we started the company, people said, Jeff, you don't know anything about the movie business. I said, no, but I know something about building great teams and the leadership it takes and the entrepreneurial formula for launching and growing any business. So we applied these rules to tech, then to music, then to film, lately to sports, to other industries. And the reason we were successful in more than one business is because, Dan, yes, we did have a playbook we used to launch every business.
That is awesome, Jeff. I just love where you first talked about what is the problem that your company solves, right? What is the problem that we solve? As Jeff was sharing that, I hope all of you guys were thinking about that question from the context of your own office, your own, business in your territory. Like what problem are you solving? And in my mind, what I thought about is the idea that most people in life want something more. Most people want something more in their life. They either want more income or more opportunity, or they want more of something. And in order to get more, we all understand this philosophy. In order to get more, we have to become more, right? And that's where we come in as a company, right? Because we are giving people an opportunity to be around an environment where we're crowdsourcing so many great ideas about success from their peers, from their leaders, from other offices, from other people who they hear speak, right? We are crowdsourcing all these great ideas and bringing them to these, 18, 19, 20-year-olds who want more and are having that chance to grow and learn. And as that progresses, I want you to think about a rep, who works with you right now, who is 18 years old, and let's say you're 25, right? And how can you keep that rep around? If you were to stay in this business for 30 years like I have, how can you keep that rep around for a long time? Right. Well, it's by building something where they would never want to leave you and continuing to offer them more, continuing to offer them more growth, right? Staying one step ahead all the time by through your own learning, right? And continuing to offer them more growth. And then I also love where Jeff talked about the idea of doing the things you're good at and then delegating or outsourcing the things you aren't good at. And as you know, right now, as a new branch manager, a lot of our new branch managers, Jeff, they're doing everything themselves and they have a chance to figure out what are they good at? What do they like? What are they not good at? Right? What do they don't like? And so that as they grow their business, as they scale it up, they're able to focus in on what are their greatest strengths and doing more of those things.
Sure,
and then delegating or outsourcing the rest.
Right, because we know at the beginning you have to do everything yourself, but quit kidding yourself. You're not good at all those things, and pay attention to the thing you're best at. And so that when you start building your team, you build your team starting with your weakness, your weakest spot. So it gives you kind of a priority for how to build a team, is to be honest with yourself about your weakest spot and start there and make your way back towards yourself based on the things that you need the most help with. And it's not a quick story. When I was in corporate America, the boss, we had to do this review and you had to evaluate yourself. And the evaluation form said, list your strengths and how they'll help the company. So I listed mine. I knew what I was good at and how I could use that to help. But then it said, list the things you're weakest at and tell us what you're going to do to improve on those. And I was thinking to myself, why would I spend any time doing the things I suck at? Somebody else should do them. By definition, I suck at those. I just admitted that. But at the corporate America, they said, explain your weaknesses and tell us what you'll do next year to improve those. So I will tell you guys what I actually wrote. Under things I suck at, I wrote ballet and synchronized swimming. And I offered to take courses in both to improve my skills. Needless to say, management did not appreciate that very much. But the point was, why are you spending time in something you are never going to be good at? Do not go take a finance class if you just don't get it. Go get somebody that knows that. So it is important. It is great that you guys as an organization continue to bring in a lot of outside skills and best practices to share. And I think Dan said it right. Don't tell that 18-year-old what they can do for you to grow this company. Take the time to say, how do I make this something you never want to leave? Ask them, what can we do for you so you will love this job? How do we help you grow in a way that you say, I don't want to work anywhere else? People don't frequently ask that question. They do more telling. This is your job. This is what we need you to do. So reflect. Are you most frequently telling people what you need them to do, or are you asking them what you can do for them? There should be a good mix. And that goes on to the customer. Let me just share a quick thing there, because Dan mentioned that as well, which is about marketing to intent. And I need to share this with you guys because it was really important in our success. Marketing to intent and not activity. And what I mean by that is buying a knife is activity. That is not intent. People don't wake up in the morning and say, I just want to, we'll just use that example, I just want to buy a knife. That is not what started the conversation. That's the activity, right? So I'll tell you what words, and let's talk about intent. I'm going to use my example. Well, I asked my employees, I started worrying about, well, in fact, just for fun, I'm going to tell you guys the actual story of where this happened. It was back in the music days, and I was on the tour with Justin Timberlake and NSYNC at the time. And NSYNC was the biggest band in the world then. And we were doing this big event in New York City in Times Square, and so many screaming girls came that they had to wait for security. We had time. We were in the world's largest music distributor, the music store then. And I remember thinking about this. Why do people come to you, right? So I asked this guy, I said, why do people come here? And he said, to buy CDs, because that's how you bought music then. I said, I don't think so. He said, what do you mean? And I said, I don't think that's why they come here. No one wants a CD. He said, Jeff, they come here to buy a CD. Look out the window, watch all the people buying CDs. I said, I know they're buying CDs, but no one wants them. That's the activity, not the intent. He said, you're nuts. You want to see our sales numbers, how many CDs a week we sell? I said, interesting, because no one wants one. And he looked at Justin and the guys. He's like, your friend Jeff's an idiot. He said, what's your point? I said, no one wakes up in the morning saying, man, I wish I could pay money for a round piece of plastic with a hole in it. And he just like, no one wakes up and said, man, I wish I could spend a bunch of money to buy a knife right now, or whatever it is. He said, what do you think they want? I said, when people wake up in the morning, what they say is, I want to hear that song now. And he said, what's the difference? I'll tell you guys the difference. The music industry, if you thought your job, if you were selling, just get a song in my ear fast, you think that's different than if you thought your job was just sell me a CD? The music industry decided I was wrong, so they didn't focus on the fastest way to get a song in your ear. They just kept selling CDs. The music industry failed to invent the iPod. The music industry failed to invent iTunes. They lost billions of dollars and thousands of jobs and went bankrupt because they thought they were in the business of selling CDs. So I went back to my office and I did something I want you to do. I asked all my employees, why do people come to us? And they said, oh, to buy airline tickets. I said, uh-oh. They said, why? I said, because no one wants an airline ticket. And they're like, dude, you want to know how many airline tickets we're selling right now? I said, interesting, because no one wants an airline ticket. The question is, when they woke up in the morning, an airline ticket's activity. Nobody woke up and said, man, I can't wait to buy an expensive ticket, drive to the airport, get frisked by TSA, sit in the middle seat, get no food. No one wants an airline ticket. When they woke up in the morning, they were thinking one thing. And that's what you have to find out. They were thinking, I wish I could go to my sister's wedding. So we changed our marketing. It didn't say, come, it used to say, come here and buy airline tickets because we sell airline tickets. We stopped selling it. That's activity. We started selling to intent. What it said was, we know you're stressed about getting to your sister's wedding. We'll get you there. We got you. We'll get you to your sister's wedding. We're the people to call. We started selling sisters' weddings and cousins' graduations and your toes in the sand on the beach instead of airline tickets. So my question to you is the same thing. When we talk about the problem we're solving for people, what does your customer want? When they wake up in the morning, they're not thinking, I need another piece of cutlery or anything. They are thinking to themselves something else. It might be their time. It's taking me too long. Again, I don't know your business well enough, so please excuse if my examples are stupid. If I need my time back, or I can think of one, because this is a real example to me. Somebody that was in my family that said, I asked her, you spend so much time in the kitchen? And she said, yeah. She said, but I have a goal that's really personal to me. And she said, what? And she said, I asked her what? And she said, I want to be complimented. I want people to say, your cooking, your meal preparation. She said, I want people to say, wow, I wish you'd prep all my meals. I wish you'd make all my meals. She had a goal. And I said, why don't they say that now? And she said, I don't have any of the right tools or equipment. She said, everything in my kitchen is wrong or missing, and I can't prepare meals at the level I want to prepare them. Again, I'm not pretending to know your business. I'm just saying that what she wanted was to earn compliments for her meal prep. She didn't want to buy more stuff. And so if we were selling to her, I'm going to make this up. Instead of saying, buy another knife, if we were selling to her, everybody's going to want to have dinner at your house every night. That's actually what she wanted. She wanted to feel like everybody wants to be in her kitchen. And so I'm just telling you, when you market to intent and we think about what problem are we solving, we're not solving the problem of selling people something. We're trying to figure out what it was they want that causes the activity. What's the intent that caused the activity? The activity is they bought something to us, but the intent is something from us they were trying to do. So when I figured out that talking about people's getting you to your sister's wedding and having an amazing time at the family reunion was the real conversation, our sales went way up from when we said, if you need an airline ticket, we sell those, so call us. Hope that made sense to people.
Yeah, that was great. That was great, Jeff. That was great. I think you guys could take that idea as it relates to our reps and, brainstorm with reps, how they're promoting with their customers. I think for our managers who are on the call, Jeff, that they view their customers as the people we recruit, right? And how can we get those people to want to come onto our team? How can we get those people to want to stay on our team and work with us in the long run, and be able to be here for all throughout college, or if they're getting, close to finishing college, how can we get those people to want to stay here after college, right? That's kind of how we view our building process.
So that's the first part we were talking about, is you got to ask these 18-year-olds what you can do for them. But I will say, Dan, while that's very true, if your customer's customer isn't happy, you have no business anyway.
Right.
So helping that 18-year-old actually deliver, right? You guys create marketing materials, or they do, but I think both levels count. We've always said that if you're not selling, if your customer has a customer, you better understand them too. But I get your point entirely. What we got to figure out is, what is it we're doing for those 18-year-olds or whatever they are that make them stay for as many years as they'll possibly stay?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Jeff, we got a question, or a couple related questions here from Matt in Washington, who says, what do you think will never be the same again now that there's this sort of new normal? And related to that, John in Riverside asks, what is the next set of skills that you'll be focusing on as a leader to learn to be able to capitalize on this new way of business? So,
Okay,
what do you feel? Go ahead.
Sure. And my favorite question in the chat so far was, Brad said, what is that lady's phone number? That I was talking about. I saw that go by. Good business. So the first part about what will never be different, or what will be different or never the same as we go forward. So what happened was, whether we liked it or not, we suddenly found ourselves stuck at home, and we had to do things at home we never did before. So let's start with a really big one. All the restaurants were closed, and some were able to do delivery and some were not. So a lot more of us had to figure out how to prepare food ourselves, right? A lot more kitchens were suddenly brought out of hibernation than used to be, right? I'm a prime example previously in my life, because I traveled so much that I just always was at a restaurant. So all of a sudden you had way more people at home. And so two things happened. One, they started getting educated in how to prepare food, right? And if you look at the numbers, they started learning how to cook and learning how to prep food. And suddenly a whole new set of customers that never bought before, because they never cared, because they never made anything in their kitchen before, somebody better find them, right? So that's a different ad. That is an ad for the rookie that says, hey, you probably learned to cook during COVID, so you probably have nothing in your kitchen that you need to be good at this. That's the sister's wedding. We know you're a rookie. We know you don't know this stuff. We do. Our people are experts. We'll help you get even better in the kitchen. Because what that person wants is not to buy something, but they want to be even better in the kitchen. So a whole new set of customers was born. Another whole new, and some of those people will go to restaurants less. It's just the truth. They didn't know they could make a meal for themselves until they had to. And then they might have discovered that they liked it. So I don't think restaurant numbers ever go back to the same that they were. Of course they'll recover, but I don't think they'll be 100%, in the same way that travel won't be 100%, because companies, let's say that this meeting we're having now always used to be held in person quarterly, making up an example. A lot of companies are telling me, we're going to do one annual in-person and the other 3 quarters we're going to do on Zoom, because we've never used Zoom in our company before the lockdown, and it works pretty well. So you're going to see travel won't resume to the same degree, but I don't think restaurants will either, and that's a huge opportunity for you. So by the way, that's also, when you talked about, Dan, about new opportunities, the question you have to ask yourselves is, what new requirements were birthed during this time? So one of them I just mentioned is the rookie, the kitchen rookie, the cooking rookie needs some education that's at a little slower pace than the cooking shows on TV. So is there a way, I'm totally making this up right now as I'm saying this sentence, is there a way to bundle more or partner with more education that goes with your products for the new person, instead of assuming that a lot of your customers already know how to use the product they bought from you because there were less rookies buying your product? I'm guessing this, but I'm saying now that there's people in kitchens that weren't comfortable in kitchens before, they need a different set of guidance and education and training on how to use the stuff that we're selling them. That's an opportunity. So what I've been doing is sitting down and thinking, what's different in the world after this that we weren't prepared for that creates an opportunity? Work from home is a big one, right? New people in the kitchen is a big one. We know that all forms of education, so many schools and teachers were not prepared to be teaching from home, and so many parents have no idea how to do homeschooling. So there's a giant new market. Tools for parents to better help their kids with their education while they're at home. Even when they go back to school, parents found out how little they knew about math when their kid asked a simple math question. And they're like, geez, I wish I could help my kid more. That's a whole new set of opportunities. Online, so education in all forms is one, which should include you guys. What's the education in the kitchen for the rookies? Healthcare is another huge one. So let's think about this that kind of goes along adjacent. By the way, one of the terms I always use is look for adjacent opportunities to the one you already have. So you know what's adjacent to food prep? Nutrition. We don't sell nutrition, but maybe we should, because you know what's been a running joke that I've heard on more than one Zoom call? Somebody said, turn on your camera, and the other person said, I don't want to because I put on the quarantine 10. That's a new term that I heard. I was like, what are you talking about? And people said, I've been snacking too much because I'm home and I've gained weight during the quarantine. You know what they told me is they said, I've never really focused on nutrition. I don't know a lot about it. I just picked something out of the fridge to eat. So I've heard all these people recently talking about nutrition, people that didn't think about it before they were trapped at home. What food should I prep? I don't know this stuff. I would call nutrition an adjacent opportunity to food prep, to the business you're in. Could I help people with nutritional tools? Is that an additional, whether it's a sale I make or is it somebody I should partner with adjacent? I'm just using those as examples of all kinds of new opportunities. So what you have to do is you have to like sit with a whiteboard, clear your mind and say, think through, this is what I do all the time. Think through everything okay, that's funny. And Brad wrote another comment, if you guys can't read that. He said, I heard Matt say that he gained the COVID-19. So that's a little more weight than the COVID-10, but it's a lot funnier. So sit down and think through all this. What changed in the world and what new opportunities does it create? It creates new opportunities in education, in you know, how to live, everything. I had one the other day, some kids were saying, our parents need a little better guidance at parenting, right? And I had parents saying, I wish there was a better online class, something I could take to improve my parenting skills because I'm getting way more of my kids' time now. New opportunities. They're all over the place if you think about the way that life has changed. Even when we go back to quote normal, everybody won't go back to the same normal.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks. That's great. I've got one more question I want to make sure we get to. And maybe you could share a story that from your own travels and things that you've been doing that might relate to this one. But this is comes from Joseph in California. It says, if you could completely eliminate one real world problem from the planet, what would it be and how would you do it? Or I might say, how are you doing it? Because you're already trying to eliminate real world problems through your service to the world. We'd love to hear your take on that one.
All right. Wow, that's a huge one. So I'm going to give a pretty high-level answer to that then. There are, and I'll just give one. A bunch of things came to mind when you said that, but I'll give one. It's interesting that, and I'll give some context to it. It's interesting that we in America, by default, even if you realize you're doing this, think we're smarter than everybody. And we think we're smarter than everybody. And I'm not accusing anybody on this call. I'll explain why I feel that way. Because where do most of the world's top, coolest, most innovative companies come from? Where did Google come from? Where did Apple come from, right? All these Facebook, all these big entities all come out of the US. So it's easy to think we must be smarter than the world because we're creating all this stuff. A lot of big brands, Levi's jeans, whatever, things that people wear all over the world and emulate are American. So maybe we're smarter. But here's a fundamental truth. Intelligence is equally distributed all over the planet Earth. Opportunity is not. Okay? We are not, in fact, smarter than anyone else. We simply have resources. So the idea for Steve Wozniak's a friend, the other founder of Apple. The kinds of ideas, even he recognizes what he had was an opportunity to create Apple in this country. But his idea could have been people all over the world that had. In fact, I went on a trip once to West Africa, to a village. I left the day after I gave a speech in Silicon Valley and a speech at Stanford. So I was at the quote smart place in the country. Then I went to a village in West Africa, and a 19-year-old kid in the dirt of a village where the houses were made out of mud, no electricity, no water, had an idea that was more brilliant than any idea I heard at Stanford or Silicon Valley. So I'm going to say that again. Intelligence is equally distributed, opportunity is not. So the problem that I would like to solve, Dan, and the one I'm trying to solve with anything I can do, is we need to find ways to create opportunities by connecting people in places where they don't have resources to the resources that we need. I will give you one of the things we're doing about it. I am the chairman of something called the Global Entrepreneurship Network. We have built a network with a simple mission to enable anybody anywhere in the world to launch their idea into a business. We are now on the ground in 180 countries. It's taken us a while to build this, and honestly, I'm very proud of our team. We have people on the ground in 180 countries with one simple task. If you have an idea, we'll help you launch it into a business. Here's the reason why. People everywhere want a better life, and they have an idea, they just don't know where to start, right? They don't have resources to do it. I'm gonna go back to that kid, the 19-year-old kid in West Africa. He said, Jeff, can you help me? I flew. Dan, you know about this. I took a year off where I didn't tell anybody in the world what I was doing, but I did a year of yes. I was trying to give back as thanks for the blessings I've received. And for 1 year, I said I was gonna say yes to anyone in the world that asked me for help with anything for a year. I told no one I was doing this. I'll make no money that year, do no business. I don't know where I'm gonna be tomorrow. I'll just say yes to people for a year to help. And so when I did that, year of yes, that young man in Senegal was my second trip in West Africa. And he said, life sucks in the village. And he said, but I have ideas, and I think I could make life better for everybody in this village. And he said, I just don't know where to start. I have no resources. So that he is the very reason that I do what I do every day, and why we created Global Entrepreneurship Network is one example, and got people on the ground to do that. We provide mentoring, we provide funding, we provide connections to customers, and everything we can provide in an ecosystem. Today, this young man, Mustafa, he has company, does business. He has 350 employees. He does business in 7 West African countries. And he's doing so well that he built houses with water and electricity, actual houses for his employees. That's part of working there. That is the ripple effect of being able to connect everybody with as many connections and resources as we can, so that their idea has a chance to come to life. So just like everyone on this call, you have your definition of a better life or the life you want to live. So does everybody else in the world, but they don't have the resources and the opportunities that we do. So instead of just being thankful for what we have, the idea is let's go share it. So I personally have been to, I think, 96 countries now. And so now I feel much safer saying there's smart people everywhere. There's people that want a better life, and they're willing to work as hard as you guys work. Someone just give them a chance. So you asked me what I would like to, problem I'd like to solve. The problem I'd like to solve is giving everybody a chance at a better life by giving them at least a little bit of resource and opportunity to create it. And once you give them that space, they create. We have amazing stories like the guy I just told you about all over the world and all over this country, of people that were, someone opened the door a tiny crack and they smashed their way through it. You guys know opportunity doesn't knock. That old opportunity only knocks once. It doesn't knock at all. You smash doors down and make stuff happen. We are trying to create opportunities for people to do that, and they're doing it. So sorry for that long answer, but that was a really cool question to ask. And it's, you know, Dan, you know that we're doing this program. Thank you. I saw that, Justin. Thank you. The program that Pitbull, the singer, and I are doing right now is we're trying to help the smallest businesses in America, the minority-owned little restaurant or little shop, especially minority-owned ones. We're starting with Latino businesses because they're failing the fastest. We started this program to give out $10,000 cash, not a loan, just cash, not government money, our money. We're giving out $10,000 grants to little businesses all over the country because all they need is a chance. Don't let them go under. Give them a little bit of a cash, a little bit of money to hang on and watch what they'll be able to create with it. So that's why, you know, if you Google that, My Name in Pitbull, the program that he and I are doing now is the same thing. Just give people a chance and they will do the work they need to do to take care of their family and the people they care about. So that's the problem I'm trying to spend the rest of my life helping with whatever little bit I can help with.
Jeff, that was awesome. And it's a great tie-in to what we do and trying to help, you know, recruit young people and give them the tools and give them the resources to do stuff here. And I just feel so inspired when I listen to you share. It just makes me want to play bigger in the world when I listen to you share.
We're about to wrap up.
Yeah, and I'm sure everybody feels that same way. And as much as Justin, we'd love to let Jeff talk as long as he wants. I think that we got to respect his time and say, hey, thank you so much. If you guys want to type in some of your takeaways or how Jeff made you feel in the chat box, go ahead and blow up the chat box right now, and that'd be awesome.
Dan?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm trying to be respectful of your time. I'm okay if you want to talk a few more minutes, but I know you have other agenda items to get to. So I was trying to be respectful of us reaching the top of the hour. If we need to move on, that's fine. If you want to do another question, that's fine. Also, since this is the Cutco Vector family, my email is just jeff@jeffhoffman.com. So we can also continue conversations. It's easy to reach me. But again, I didn't know if we needed to stop at a hard stop just to be respectful of everybody's time.
Yeah, well, you know, thank you, Jeff. Jeff@jeffhoffman.com. If any of you want to send Jeff a question or a note, I think, you know, making sure that we connect, that you connect with Jeff on LinkedIn so you can follow him would be really important. I'm seeing here people sending me messages as well, like, let him talk, let him talk. So, you know, Jeff, if you do want to take it away with one more topic or idea, I see Justin asking about the most important life skills that this group maybe should be focused on learning right now. What is going to help this group to become great leaders, great entrepreneurs, great inspirers of others, more successful in the future. If you want to take it away on one more little thought, that would be awesome. And then we got to take about 5 to 10 minutes to wrap up the call, guys. So please hang in with us for a few extra minutes today. But I know people are getting amazing value. So let me throw it back to you for one more quick little section.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate everybody's time today. I would say that skill, we'll hit that one, that skill that's most important to you guys. And it's one that I didn't start with, but I later figured out, which is empathy, right? Empathy is the way you listen in the world. It's what mode you are in when you listen. I used to listen when, as soon as a customer started explaining something to me, I was already formulating the answer. So was I really listening? Not really. I was preparing my answer. I was hearing them, but not really listening. And so I started to discover that a little bit with an employee too, because an employee was coming to me with a problem and I'm the boss, I'm the manager, I need to have a solution, I need to resolve this. You know what I was doing? I was already preparing my answer to the employee's question or how to solve the problem, because you're the boss, so you know best because you're the smartest, except that none of those things I just said is true at all right? The fact that somebody's an 18-year-old and this is their first job does not make their idea less valid than yours. So the empathy part was the fact that I would listen thinking to myself, I'm the boss and they're coming to me for help because they're struggling and they're lost. And instead of saying, what I should do is be 100% present in the listening mode and wipe out, stop thinking about solutions, do nothing but listen and try to comprehend, and then ask a bunch of questions before you think anything. I learned to do that. And I would say, okay, first of all, I understand why you feel that way. Why did you word it that way? Have you had similar previous experiences of that? What do you think the solution would be? When I developed the empathy of totally being present in the other person's body the best that I could instead of in mine, my companies everything we did got way better. Because then when I would make a decision, a lot of times, the 18-year-old kid's idea was just better than mine. I might have been doing this for 25 years, but I was like, holy crap, I never thought of it that way. And you know why I never thought of it that way? Because my way's been okay for 20-something years, but this kid grew up in a different time and age with access to different tools and different perspectives. And it's time for me to upgrade, not him. So empathy, I think, is the most important skill. And it's consciously saying at the start of a conversation, I am not going to formulate responses. I'm not even going to think about my replies. I'm going to be totally present. I'm going to spend all this time asking questions of the other person until I feel like I fully understand. You know what I've done in some cases, which I didn't used to do? I would say, okay, now I've completely heard you. So I'm not going to answer right now because now I need to think about this. And I'll call you back. I'll be back in 30 minutes. I'll call you later, or give me 10 minutes. But I used to answer because I'm the boss and I'm supposed to know the answer, so I should answer. And now what I do is I say, let me ask you a bunch of questions. Let me listen deeply. Now, can you give me a few minutes? Because I need to process everything I just heard and then answer the question, instead of my old way was answer it because you're the smart person, you're the boss. Listen way deeper and stop prepping answers, then sit down and say, I've thought through all this stuff, now I have an answer. They still may not like it, but you know what the other difference is? When a lot of times what people are really telling you is not that they disagree with you, it's that they just want to be heard. If decisions are made by you as the boss and they don't feel heard, they resist those decisions. So a lot of times when you come back and say, I listened deeply, I heard you, I get it, I still have to do it this way, it's a totally different answer. When they felt, even though they don't agree, they felt listened to. So be careful of that. And I didn't know that until I started practicing empathy and pushing myself and saying, do you feel like I've listened to you? Do you feel like I get it? And when you actually try to asking that explicitly, and when a lot of times the person will say, well, you never asked me that before. So I'm asking you now, do you feel like I heard you? And they said, no. And I said, what do you think I didn't hear? And they would tell me, and we'd repeat this until they say, I actually am satisfied. I feel like you've completely heard me. Then I would say, okay, in return for that, please respect whatever decision I made now that you know I took your input into that decision. And so it was much better. A lot of times when you come back and you say, based on, think about these words, based on your input, this is the decision I've made. Okay, because now they feel like it was their decision. Whether it was yours or not, they feel included in the decision-making process. So I will stop there, let you guys wrap up your meeting. Thank you guys for spending this time today, and I hope that some of this was helpful.
Jeff, that was brilliant and awesome. We loved it. I know I can speak for the crowd. Yes, I see a lot of ovation going on right now. Thank you so much for giving us a piece of your valuable time, Jeff. We really, really, really appreciate it. So
thank you guys. And
awesome.
Stay safe and congrats on the growth you've achieved during this time period. Keep doing it.
Thanks, man. Awesome stuff. Hope to see you sometime soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Hey, everyone. I trust that you got